Welcome to the Microcast, the short-form podcast from Microcosm Coaching, where we break down the science, strategy, and psychology behind smarter endurance training. Each week, we tackle a key concept in running, training, or recovery, and we give you practical tools you can apply right away, whether you're building back, leveling up, or chasing down a big goal. We keep it short, evidence-based, and grounded in real coaching experience. No hype, no fluff, just actionable insights to help you train sustainably and perform at your best. Let's get into it.
Over the next few weeks, we're going to introduce you to a few other Microcosm coaches on our podcast, so you can hear a little bit from them on who they are and what they're about.
I'm James Nance, a running and cycling coach based out of Fort Collins, Colorado. I used to teach college mathematics, and I absolutely loved connecting with all the students, forming those relationships, seeing them learn and grow. And I no longer teach, but I kind of missed that connection component. I really enjoy working with athletes who are maybe pursuing multiple sports or are pursuing a big goal in one sport, but still want to stay in touch with their other disciplines, whether that's cycling or skiing or swimming or whatever else. I really enjoy helping athletes balance chasing a big goal in one discipline while doing things that they still really enjoy and find valuable. I love coaching athletes of any age or chasing any discipline, whether that's a road 5K or a marathon, or a cyclist who's just wants to show up and hang on a little longer during the group rides on the weekends, or whether they're training for some big endurance ride, a Grand Fondo or something like that. I really enjoy working with athletes who are maybe stuck in an injury cycle, athletes who are struggling or have struggled with relative energy deficiency in sport, RED-S, maybe some disordered eating, maybe some exercise dependency. I've dealt with all that stuff myself and still struggle with it every now and then, so I feel like I can relate a little more easily to those athletes. I understand what they're going through. The problems I solve best are the ones where maybe someone's overtraining, and identifying how we can right the ship, ease off the gas a little bit in a way that still feels like they're not going from 100 miles an hour to zero all at once. Trying to take one baby step each week or each month even, just to kind of like slowly taper things back. So if we can find one thing to tweak each week or each couple of weeks and just slowly work away, that seems to be a really impactful way to approach some of these problems. My hot take is that I don't enable any of the color coding of workouts in Training Peaks. I feel like seeing those colors, it assigns like bad to red and not good enough to yellow. And I really want to get away from that mindset, because sometimes taking a red day or skipping a workout could be you perfectly executing your training plan. If you didn't sleep well at all last night, stressing over, a big presentation at work, you're exhausted the next morning, instead of like slogging through a tough workout, you take the rest day. And that's exactly what I would want to see as a coach. What sets me apart as a coach is that I care really deeply about the athletes that I coach. They're not just a name in my Training Peaks log. I really want to get to know them as human beings. Like, what'd you do this weekend? How was that ski trip? You mentioned you had an interview for this job coming. How's that going? I miss those connections with my students as a teacher, and I'm kind of striving for those same connections with my athletes. To help multi-sport athletes chase big goals and dreams while staying in touch with their athletic identity, whether that's running and then going on that group ride on the weekends, or doing some downhill skiing on the weekends, or whatever else that they're able to do that expresses themselves as an athlete. I help them retain that in their athletic journey.
If you want to get to know Coach James or anyone else on our staff, reach out. We have roster spots available. microcosmcoaching@gmail.com.
Got that grape in?
Got that grape in.
How's that intro? How's that intro?
30 seconds before every single podcast, just like chugging water, eating snacks.
Carving up.
Carving up.
I want to talk a little bit about my carbo load of choice
right now.
Yes.
This is really spectacular stuff.
This is called a Moscow Mule.
Have you had one of these before?
No, but it's by Athletic Brewing Company.
I was actually kind of bummed you grabbed that because I really like them. And I was like, well, I don't know that he likes it. And
it's so tasty.
So good.
And let me just say, it has 70 grams of calories. That's 13 grams of carbs. It's less than a gel. It's not
That's
great.
like a Swedish fish.
It's not a great carbo load.
It's like a spring energy gel.
But it feels good, and I'm all about those feeling-based outcomes.
It's all about feelings. I'm stoked you're back. You were in Alaska for a week, so last week we ran an episode with our coach, Cliff Pittman.
Yes.
Which I think is really good, and if folks haven't listened, they should get right with God and go back and listen to that.
I hope they enjoy it.
Yeah, and I'm excited to have you back in the studio.
I know, because I'm so talkative.
You're so talkative.
And insightful.
It helps balance my thing.
You have a lot going on.
Yin and yang. But I'm excited for this week's episode because we've got some baller hot or nots while you were gone.
Yes.
The people spoke.
Yes.
People have been commenting. They've
Thank
been
you.
emailing. They've been DMing. People have been sending us hot or nots. So thank you to everyone who commented in our Slack community, who sent us an email, who sent us a DM, and send us more hot or nots. Microcosm-coaching@gmail.com. Join our Slack community via the Foothills tier and get in on the conversation. And just thanks to everyone who did send these in and who sent in a listener question. So we're going to address those. Then we're going to talk about doubles.
Okay.
I'm excited.
I can't wait to debate you about doubles.
We're not debating. Feelings don't come into it. There are, it's sort of like varying degrees of productive. Like, I'm not here to say that they're good or bad.
Okay, you're an athlete that doubles. I'm
Yeah.
an athlete that used to double and loves not doubling. So I can't wait to bring in the pros and cons
There's pros and
talk
cons.
about the full spectrum of the double. But yes, guys, thank you for sending in these hot or nots. We've got some great ones for this week and next week. If you aren't a member of the Foothills community, it's a great way to support the podcast, helps us do what we do, and you get coaching out of it. So check it out, microcosm-coaching.com. There's information there, and Foothills 10 gives you a big discount on that. It's a $30 a month program that we run for people who are not in this community, and you get it for $10. So huge deal. And we appreciate these hot or nots. So it's a great way to send those over to us. All right, let's get into it instead of just plugging coaching stuff. Okay, these are really fun.
They are fun.
Inversion tables.
Ooh, I'm going to say not. So what inversion table, it's like the thing
I
where
just died a small death because I personally,
they feel good.
I think they feel good, and it sucks that they're not actually very hot.
Yeah, they feel good. So what it is, it's gravity-assisted traction that helps to ideally create space between vertebrae. The effects can last anywhere from minutes up to hours.
Just minutes.
There is no studied long-term benefit to runners. And what I did want to mention is that the risk profile, I don't think is ideal for athletes because they can raise blood pressure and intraocular and intracranial pressure. So contraindicated for hypertension, glaucoma, heart disease. For a healthy runner, it's probably fine, but it's not doing anything special. And again, like the thing I want to dehypnotize people on is like, if it doesn't hurt, why not? Well, there's always a cost benefit. So like, what are you plugging this into that means you're putting a Band-Aid on an issue that needs a deeper solution?
Well,
or what are you crowding out? What evidence are you ignoring?
For sure. And I like the fact that it only lasts for minutes. When you could lean into some better options that maybe have a more lasting effect for your mobility, child's pose, cat cow, dead hangs, they achieve similar things.
Yeah.
They help to decompress. You don't need expensive equipment, and there's a lot less risk involved. I know for me, like, mobility is so important, and my back gets really stiff, and it's a huge issue. Just literally doing child's pose, cat cow, like prone press ups, like that little kind of like 3 exercise thing instead of buying an inversion table has changed my life. Like, I do those things every day.
If your spine's getting compressed, it makes me wonder why. Like, could we fix something about your work-life balance? The fact that you're sitting at a desk all day and strengthen your back. Again, sitting in and of itself isn't as bad as I feel like people often hype it up to be. The thing is that sitting isn't exercise. So like if you're overall active, sitting is fine. But if you have like a sort of weakness or an imbalance in your spine or in your athletic chain, that's where you tend to see issues. So the actual deeper solution here is trunk and core stability through a well-rounded, consistent, and sustainable strength program.
All right, not hot. You heard it here. Probably not first. Okay, muscle scraping. This is another freaking great one. Okay, just come out with it. What do you think? Hot or not?
Not. So the original theory on like, the scrapers, like the like I know I've seen Molly
Yes, we
Seidel on
have
my
a
Instagram.
metal
We do have
scraper.
one. Yeah, we do.
It's made out of
Uh,
like a meteorite.
sure. Great. The original theory has been totally debunked, but the idea used to be that you're breaking up scar tissue or releasing fascial adhesions, and this has been pretty much disproven. So, research from Schleep from in 2016, and I'll link to this in the show notes, shows that fascia is too structurally strong to deform with handheld tool pressure.
God, it's so disappointing when my PT uses that instead of
This is the thing that's like tough is there are great PTs and not everything that great PTs do is evidence. Like even this is like
no.
I thought I wasn't gonna say this, but I'm gonna say this. There's a lot of elements of chiropractic care that are not evidence based. Do they feel good? Sure. But it is complicated, not enough to cover in this episode, maybe an additional episode. But there are just because a chiropractor does it, just because a PT does it, doesn't always make it evidence based.
Wait.
Scraping, one of those things.
But just because it works on a rat's Achilles
Correct.
doesn't necessarily mean it works for a human runner.
Yeah, exactly. Because the strongest evidence, often what you do see people cite, is for that tissue remodeling point does come from a rat tendon study,
So fun.
not from human clinical trials. So, what? Let's talk about what
How do you
is.
scrape a rat's Achilles tendon?
Just imagine some poor like PhD with their tiny little scrape.
How small is that scraper?
Can you imagine trying to scrape Bowie's tendons?
Ugh,
Not good.
shoot, man.
She's
She'd
very
be very
loose.
upset
Her
about that.
tendons are very loose.
She doesn't like scraping.
She does not like being scraped. So what's actually happening is primarily neurological because you're stimulating sensory nerve endings in your skin. And that can lead to temporary changes in pain perception and in muscle tone. But that's essentially massage with a metal tool. Nothing inherently wrong with that, but I don't think it justifies the premium or the mystique. And again, I think the wrong question is like, well, if it doesn't hurt, why not? Like, if it doesn't hurt, okay, well, let's find like the actual solution or figure out if this is actually a problem. Because throwing solutions at problems that don't exist is dumb, and throwing fake solutions at problems that do exist is also dumb.
Yeah. Why are you getting tight in those areas?
Mhm.
All right. THC cream in your drop bag, hot or not?
I'm so tired. Okay. Geez. Not. It would just be easier if it was like, yes, here's a study. No. The evidence here is pretty weak. Plus, there is a real anti-doping risk, and I think it puts a band-aid on a problem. So I want to zoom out a little bit and talk about the evidence. So topical CBD continually fails in human trials. Randomized controlled trial after randomized controlled trial, which is the standard I want to see, on total knee replacement shows no benefit over placebo for pain, opioid use, or sleep. So trials also looking at osteoarthritis and psoriatic arthritis found that CBD cream was no better than a placebo. Animal studies have looked more promising, but human RCTs just haven't delivered. That's the standard I want to see.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
a lot of times these THC topicals have way better anecdotal support, but pretty limited clinical data.
Well, do
So
you think that's really because of the power of the placebo effect?
yeah, 100%.
Because we just don't have the evidence to support that these things actually help.
Correct.
And it's nice that we can trick ourselves into thinking that they do and to like feeling a benefit. But at the end of the day, these products are pretty expensive
Mhm.
and they don't really do what they say that they do. And then in the end, I don't know, what if we get popped on a drug test?
Yeah, exactly. So, there was actually a study that found that THC containing products had a 2.2 higher odds of reported pain reduction than CBD only. Again, that's a survey, not a clinical trial.
Mm,
The question of like if enough of the active substance actually gets absorbed is still open. That's a question mark that we have.
Right.
So whether enough of the actual compound can penetrate your skin to reach the joint at its therapeutic dose is unclear. Product quality for me also is huge here. So supplements are largely unregulated, which
Right.
is, and like, I don't feel comfortable saying buyer beware. I wish we regulated this stuff. I wish that people cared about science, but CBD and THC products are largely unregulated, and independent testing consistently shows mislabeling and misrepresentation. You don't know what you're actually putting on your skin in a lot of circumstances, and that to me is pretty troubling.
That's really troubling. I mean, you want to know what you're putting on yourself, right? What are
Yes, you
the
do.
risks? What's actually in this product? And again, with supplements and other, supplement adjacent things, these kind of just act as silver bullets instead of actually addressing what is causing the pain that you want to put that, on your knee. You have arthritis. Okay, like, are you actually seeing a doctor about this?
Yeah, why does
Um,
your knee hurt during an ultra? Like, should you be training more differently? Is there a weak like, there's lots of reasons your knee can hurt, and rubbing cream on it is a Band-Aid that we ideally would wanna get out in front of and ameliorate through training. I did just wanna really quickly mention the clean sport of it all,
yeah, I think so.
because I think that is important, and because we are dedicated to fair competition and clean sport. THC is prohibited in competition under WADA, US ADA. It's classified as a substance of abuse. I don't agree with this classification and don't find it in line with the most up-to-date evidence. I find that it's primarily based on racist stereotypes rather than actual science, which I also don't like.
Check out the YDS
Check out
podcast
the YDS on this.
on cannabis.
On
It's a good
cannabis.
episode.
It's a good episode. But again, if you're competing and I want like I think if even if you're not elite, we all should agree to compete on the
Yes,
terms that we've
please.
agreed are fair. So Delta 9 THC has a urinary threshold of 150 nanograms per milliliter. So if you're above that in competition, it's reported as a positive test, regardless of when or how you used it. And it is possible this could happen through skin absorption. Transdermal CBD, there was a transdermal CBD study that confirmed that topical application can result in detectable levels in urine. So I think that's problematic. Again, it's not a one-to-one of if you put a little cream on your knee, it will be this, but you're competing outside of the strictures that we've decided are fair for competition. And because drug testing relies on strict liability, underwater rules, athletes are responsible for everything in their bodies, regardless of intent, regardless of labeling. And saying, I just used a cream on your knee will not change how folks feel about that. So, again, I think the rules should be updated. If you're someone from USADA listening, hey guys, let's do some science here and
Yeah,
let's be
please.
cool. And if you're someone using THC in training, you should be aware of the risks and you should be aware of the regulations. And again, this is a band-aid on a problem. I don't like the idea of people keeping creams in their drop bags to try to just you know, like Voltaire and things like I'm not in love with it. Proceed with caution.
All
But
right.
no to CBD THC cream
Yes.
from me.
Not hot.
Not hot.
Okay. Superfeet insoles. I'm just going to spoiler alert on this. I think these are hot.
Tell me why.
I think there's some
Let's let TJ
caveats.
please talk.
Yeah, let me talk a little bit, Zoe. You're taking up a lot of airtime today. Meta-analysis, 11 studies, 1,300 plus people. Prefabricated insoles were as effective as custom orthotics for pain reduction at 2 to 12 months.
Love it. Don't pay
Use.
extra.
So that's amazing. We're runners. It's important for our feet to feel good. We all have different feet. They're I guess they're constructed the same, but we have different like our arches are different. Some people have a high arch, some people
You're a
have a high
beautiful
instep.
foot
Some
snowflake.
people are flat-footed, We have this big spectrum of
Some
feet.
people have heel spurs and couldn't possibly fight in the Vietnam War.
Well, they didn't have Superfeet then, Zoe.
So such a shame.
It is. It is a shame. It is. There's consequences. Anyways, I digress. The average runner with arch pain or plantar fasciitis will typically see like maybe I guess these prefab orthotics, they work and if you are having issues, arch pain, plantar fasciitis pain, try one of these out. Like, they work. They're going to get you 90% of the way there at a fraction of the cost. And that's pretty important, right? Like, we have
Yeah.
money to spend on more important things than custom orthotics.
This is one of those rare things where I'm like, this is typically something I'm like, I would, again, like with caveats and nuance, would recommend because there's no running shoe on earth that has support. It always blows my mind how
Right.
athletes are like, I need a shoe. Like Asics one time tried to make a shoe with arch support, but there's so much
There's
variation
too much
in
variation.
arches, you just can't. So Superfeet tries to answer for that so that you can like sort of tailor where the arch actually hits so that it makes sense for your foot. So because shoes don't provide arch supports provide arch support, and those can help address a lot of different foot structural issues that lead to Achilles tendonitis, plantar fasciitis, lower leg issues, and sometimes you just need that structural help. Like, yes, strength training is helpful. Yes, mobility is helpful, making sure we don't have weaknesses or imbalances. But increasingly, too, we're seeing athletes with this desire to go to lower drop shoes, which puts increased risk on those lower legs, increased stress on lower legs and feet. And arch supports can help ameliorate some of that stress. So if you're someone with plantar, Achilles, lower leg issues, getting into a slightly higher drop shoe and an arch support can go a long way there.
A couple fit nuances that I think are important to mention here. Putting a superfoot or a similar orthotic in your shoe changes your heel drop.
Mhm.
So definitely be mindful of that. It also changes your shoe's volume. Typically, they take up space. So you might need to size up a little bit. There sometimes with these orthotics, there's also a break-in period.
Yeah,
Um,
I wouldn't, like, buy a pair of Superfeet and then, like, rip out a 20-mile run.
well, and I think
You kinda wanna it's like you're changing the foundation on your house, so it will alter your biomechanics, so I would say start with 1 run a week where the Superfeet. 2, like, start to gradually introduce it rather than just, like, diving in head first and running 60 miles in them.
and the big caveat here is if your feet are happy and pain-free without insoles and you're enjoying the shoes you're using and all that, don't fix what isn't broken. That can be a huge mistake. That can cause injuries. So if
Yes.
what you're doing is working,
Great.
keep doing it. But if you are an athlete who uses super feet or needs some arch support, they are a great option.
Yeah. Awesome. Listener question. Okay, I'll ask it, and TJ, you can be the coach.
All
How about
right,
that?
I'll be the coach today.
You can
Sounds
be the
good.
coach. Great. Listener question: is RPE higher, rate of perceived exertion, higher for early morning runs? I run at 5 a.m., prehydrate with water and coffee, carry fuel for longer stuff. Zone 2 feels noticeably harder in the dark and in the cold than when I run later. Is there science behind this, or is it just me?
Well, I think it's not just you. This is totally real.
There is science.
Yeah, and there's science that backs us up. So maybe let's get into a couple of the mechanisms that I think we could say stack on top of each other
Yeah.
in order to, create that like your output levels aren't as good for the RPE that you want to have. We're running harder to produce greater output levels. One of these things is our core body temperature is at its lowest in the morning when we're just waking up. So if you're running at 5 a.m. and our core body temp tends to bottom out around 4 to 6 a.m. and peaks in the afternoon, that's going to impact your performance. Warmer muscles are more pliable. Your metabolic enzymes are going to work better. Nerve function is better, neuromuscular function is better. At 5 a.m., you're running on cold hardware. Everything is cold. You're just not going to be able to run as quick. You have to put more effort in to get those normal paces that you might see at, I don't know, 8 or 9 in the morning. I think there's also a bit of a sleep inertia, a grogginess that you feel
Yeah.
that can last for a while when you just wake up in the morning. If your alarm goes off at 4:30 and you're running at 5, you've had only a half an hour to wake up. Like, you maybe haven't even digested all of that coffee yet. You haven't That caffeine might not be hitting your system depending on what kind of a metabolizer you are. So you're bringing in a lot of lag from the sleep into that run, which makes things feel much more
Yeah.
difficult. Um, there's no sunlight out there as well, which is going to affect your,
Sometimes
yeah, usually 5 a.m.
5 a.m.
Maybe in the summer, sun's starting to come up, but that's going to also impact our system. Hormonal environment, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so your cortisol peaks at waking. Again, cortisol, not always bad, helps us get up and going. Cortisol is an awakening response. So you're stacking exercise stress on top of your body's biggest cortisol surge of the day. In the afternoon, testosterone stays slightly elevated while cortisol drops. So there is a world where, again, depending on if you have a menstrual cycle where you are in that, there is like a slight hormonal shift that for some people, when coupled with these other factors, might lead to that slightly elevated RPE in the mornings.
Glycogen state is another good one.
Yep.
So after overnight fast, sleeping, right, 8 hours, we're fasting during that time, technically, because we're not eating. Liver glycogen is slightly reduced. When fuel availability is lower, the brain perceives the same effort as harder. The central governor modulates RPE, partly based on fuel status. So you're not fueling before these runs, you're just having coffee. Coffee doesn't have carbohydrates, so that's not actually very helpful for you. That could be contributing to more greater feelings of sleep inertia and feeling laggy out there. Like it's hard to run at the output levels that you're
I
traditionally would want to
really
have.
encourage every morning runner to have an easy breakfast they can eat no matter what. Like, I don't want athletes running fasted in the mornings. There's, a lot of at like best case scenario, it's like just okay. But if you want to get the most out of your training, like I know some people say it like can feel hard or their stomach's sensitive in the mornings. Find something that works for you. It may not be a breakfast food. You'll
Yeah,
do like a scratch, like liquid fuel sometimes before you go out in the mornings. Like
often. Yeah.
could be a gel, could be a Stroop waffle. Find that easy solution that you can do. It doesn't have to be breakfast food and do that.
Is cake considered breakfast
If
food?
that's the only thing you can stomach, then it's a breakfast food,
Then
you
I'm
know?
good to go.
I would rather you eat cake than like always skip, eating before your morning run. Darkness and cold can also mess with your
Totally.
RPE because running in the dark means your melatonin is still likely elevated, your proprioception is going to be skewed, you're running with a residual sleep signal still circulating. Cold slows core temp warming, adds a sensory stressor, so your body is working to maintain homeostasis before you even start running just from like a temperature standpoint. So that also is just going to make that RPE a little bit funky. And it's not any single one of these things is like the big cause. It's a compounding of these factors. Some are going to be louder for specific individuals more than others.
So just a couple of things here before we move on into the main topic for today. But yes, definitely want to validate what you feel. It's real. There are reasons behind this. So if you're at all considering like, hey, I'm just not good at running, or I'm not good enough, or whatever, like this isn't a sign of your enoughness or anything. Like this is really normal. Um, take a longer warm up. That might be helpful. Doing lunge matrix, leg swings, like high knees, butt kicks, like just getting the engine warmed up. Obviously, eating something is going to be really important. Even if it's just a few bites of a banana, or do what I do, which is to like drink your Morton before you go out on the run, because you don't feel like you're ready to eat your oatmeal yet. And trust your RPE. Like if you're looking at your pace on your watch and you're trying to force yourself to run a certain output level because that's what your normal pace is during the day when you run, no, you're probably overdoing it. You have to trust that RPE, and don't chase the pace. Go with how it feels. Um, I think lastly, enjoy and try to own what, running in the morning gives you. Like it's pretty sweet to start the day with a run, start the day with something that you love to do. That's huge.
Yeah.
Um,
The best, like, often I'll have athletes ask, "What's the best time of day to run?" The time you can. Like,
yeah,
there's really, like, if you, I guess, all if you're a pro runner and you're listening to this podcast, thanks. But most of us aren't, and most of us
yeah.
have scheduling constraints. So the best time of day for you to run is just when you can. If that's the early morning, awesome. If that's the evening, also awesome.
All right. So good luck with those early morning runs. You inspire us. Um, Main topic for today: should you run twice a day? This is the doubles topic.
Doubles.
What are
So
doubles?
there's a pretty big range by what people mean when they talk about doubles. For instance, an elite doing a morning threshold session plus an afternoon shakeout is pretty different than a recreational runner cramming two hard efforts into one day. But when coaches prescribe doubles for non elites, the second run is pretty much always going to be a short, easy restorative effort. So the primary run carries the training purpose, the second run adds volume at minimal cost.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way to frame things. Second run, add volume. The more volume we get, the better. As long as we stay healthy and we can adapt to it. But a way to increase that volume is by doing it with a shorter, safer run at a lower RPE. So something, to consider here is elites often are using doubles to really accumulate volume.
Mhm.
So we're talking about 100 miles a week, maybe more than that, 120, 140 miles per week. See some pretty ridiculous numbers out there if you follow folks along on Strava. And it allows them to do this because they're running that amount of miles without making any single run too excessive. In ultra running, you're going to see at the elite level maybe some very excessive long runs. But they're often also coupling that with really easy doubles and a lot of recovery. So their bodies are also adapted to this frequency of running. They've been progressing and loading like this for decades. And that's really, really important to understand if you're a recreational runner, you're a mid-pack runner and you're trying to, find creative ways to build your volume more safely. It takes time to have prepare your musculoskeletal system for this additional stress.
So let's talk about what they're not. It's not two hard sessions in a day. It's not two long runs in one day. It's not a way to make up for a missed run. It's not splitting your 90-minute run into two 45-minute runs because you didn't have 90 minutes. That go back and see the other episode, who knows how long ago we did, about how that meaningfully changes the stimulus.
Right.
They're not punishment for not running enough. They are not a way to fix the running sized hole in your heart because your dad didn't hold you when you were small or whatever.
Gosh darn it.
So, if any of those are your motivation, doubles are not the tool for you.
Agreed. So let's talk about the case study for doubles here. And feel free to come in with your own bias because you're a doubler.
I wouldn't say it's a bias. I think it's a
You're,
tool
you're
that
okay,
a tool that I like to use. I have not
you
done a
like
double.
doubles. You like doubles.
I do like doubles because I like running.
You love to run.
I love to run. You like to run less than me, so you run less than me, like.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true.
And it's something that I didn't start doing doubles until probably I'd been running for training
A long
consistently
time.
for 4 years,
Well,
3,
more
4
than
years,
that, I think.
5 years.
At least.
Yeah, 5 years. Because it is a pretty advanced move. And I think that doesn't mean that people aren't doing them aren't enough. It's this thing of if you don't need that much stimulus to advance, then don't do that much stimulus.
Yeah.
The way that I always like to joke about it in our relationship is if you don't need 10 beers, don't have 10 beers. Having 10 beers does not make you better.
You need 10 beers.
I need 10 beers.
I only need 2.
I am not a cheap date. My tolerance is very high right now.
So
for in this metaphorical running joke. But
is your okay? I won't.
My tolerance is extremely low.
Yeah.
I get blown over by a stiff wind in a gin and tonic right now.
Well,
but
let's talk about the frequency of aerobic stimulus and what that means, because essentially we're talking about more adaptation signals, and that can drive more adaptation. So that's net positive.
Yeah, when productive. So every time you run, even for 20 minutes, you trigger this cascade of molecular signaling that drives the aerobic adaptation. So the key player here is PGC1A, peroxisome proliferator activated receptor gamma coactivator 1 alpha, which sounds fake as hell, but is real. So PGC1A is essentially this master switch for building your aerobic engine, because when it's turned on, it tells your cells to build more mitochondria. Those are the organelles that produce energy from fat and carbohydrates, helps you grow more capillaries, the tiny blood vessels that deliver oxygen to your working muscles, and upregulate the enzymes that improve fat oxidation efficiency. So here's where frequency comes into play with this PGC1A. That expression peaks in the hours after a run, not during it. The signal rises, peaks around 3 to 8 hours post exercise, and then returns to baseline. So, two separate easy runs separated by several hours create two separate PGC1A peaks. So, it's two adaptation windows instead of just one. The total volume might be the same as a single longer run, but the signaling frequency is doubled. So again, that stimulus is meaningfully different. Two 5 mile runs, really different than a 10-mile run. So think of each individual run as pressing a button that says build more aerobic infrastructure. So two presses in a day with a break in between means that button can, in the right recovery context, get hit twice.
Well, I think the takeaway here is for base building and aerobic development. Frequency of stimulus can matter as much as session duration. Two
Mhm.
30-minute easy runs can provide more total adaptation signaling with less structural fatigue than one 60-minute run. But if you are an athlete who who has been training for longer, two 30-minute sessions probably aren't stressful enough when separated to actually get great adaptation. So it really does matter the context and your training history.
Yes.
Because the signaling is strong, but we do need sessions to be stressful enough to produce enough signal to force your body to adapt. We need fatigue to create adaptation. So if 30 minutes doesn't fatigue you meaningfully, then then there's not a lot of point to doing that
Yeah,
session unless it's coming after a really strong stimulus.
correct. There's also reduced musculoskeletal load per session. So, running is a repeated impact activity. Each foot strike actually generates somewhere between 2 to 3 times body weight and ground reaction forces. So, so metal. Your muscles are acting as that primary shock absorber, but they do fatigue over time. And as they fatigue, they lose their ability to attenuate impact, right? And more force transfers to passive structures, bones, tendons, ligaments, cartilage. So when your shock absorbers get tired, the chassis absorbs
But don't
more
worry, there's
shock.
THC cream for that, Zoe.
And that's where, spoiler alert, THC cream. So that's why a lot of overuse injuries tend to develop in the back half of longer runs or at the end of those higher volume weeks because the muscular shock absorbers are worn out and the passive structures are taking a beating. If you put that on the context of insufficient energy intake, structural issues, weaknesses, imbalances, that's where we start to see issues pop up.
Research on running biomechanics shows significant gait changes after 40 to 60 minutes of continuous running, even at easy paces.
Amateurs?
Yes. So the last 20 minutes of a 70-minute easy run, it's biomechanically very different from the first 20 minutes, even if the pace is identical. I think it's important for athletes to recognize this. Like if your biomechanics are really breaking down towards the end of a run, maybe doubles are good for you. Split that run up, have great biomechanics throughout both of those sessions, and have more neuromuscular adaptations as a result.
I would position this less as a reason to do doubles, but a reason for if you're doing doubles, here is something that could make them effective. Because
Yeah,
if your biomechanics is breaking down, the first answer I would go towards isn't do doubles, it's fix your fucking biomechanics.
sure.
Get better at running and and
Well, we know
doubles can
we know
ameliorate this.
frequency of running helps with
Yes.
that.
Yeah. So splitting that volume keeps each run within the window where your muscles are still doing their best job as shock absorbers. So if you're injury prone, I think there could also be a case where if we needed to increase volume, this could be a way. But I would also be like, why are we increasing? Why are we dealing with that risk in the first place? If we feel like we
Yeah,
need to get ready for a race and doubles is the only way to do it, my honest gut check would be like, we need to not do that race.
I agree. Let me hit a little bit on the case for enhanced recovery, because I
Yes.
think this is important. This is one of the ways in which you utilize doubles in
Correct.
your training. Love a little Zoe case study. But short,
If it works for me, truly the every woman.
yes.
If it works for this childless millennial podcaster, it'll work for you.
Your issue is you don't have an inversion table.
I need an inversion table.
Okay,
I'm
so
gonna put a GoFundMe in the link for an inversion table.
yes. Everything would probably be better if you were inverted.
What if we were recording this podcast upside down?
That would be fun. Our
That'd be pretty
brains would
cool.
probably explode.
I mean,
It's
I
a
would
lot of
probably,
blood.
have like a grand mal seizure, but that'd be fine.
Gosh. Okay. Back
Just
to
like
enhanced recovery.
Zoe with brain damage.
I was
That
just-
would be a huge headache.
No,
for
what
me.
came to mind for me was like in that scene in Top Gun Maverick where they do the climb out and then the screen slowly goes black at the edges and goes in and they lose their vision.
Yeah,
I kind of feel like that's what would happen to us, but like the
But, like-
opposite way.
but like we're live on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
And then there'd just be like an awkward silence that we have to edit out.
Yep.
And they're like, what happens?
That was the last we heard from Zoe and TJ.
We blacked out during the podcast.
They tried to podcast upside down. We sit too much.
But at least we're not compressed. And our recovery is enhanced via blood flow to the brain.
Exactly.
So short, easy second runs, they do increase blood flow. Goes to the legs without creating a lot of additional tissue damage. That increased circulation, it delivers oxygen and nutrients to muscle tissue. That can help with the repair process. Can also help to flush out some like metabolic byproducts of a harder session in the morning. So essentially, that's really just the basics around why we might want to do these as a recovery effort. 4 out of 10 RPE, very nice and low on that RPE chart, but it can help improve recovery.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same principle behind why recovery runs the day after hard efforts work, because that gentle movement accelerates recovery compared to complete rest. And I feel like now I'm in the position of like, here are all the reasons don't do doubles, and you're steel manning the argument. But like, you can get that blood flow by putting your legs up a wall,
Yeah.
by doing an extremely easy 20-minute dog walk. Like, none of these factors in and of themselves is a reason to do doubles. They're a reason that doubles can be productive. So again, if you hear this and you're like, I have to get that blood flow, girl, put your legs up a wall. Same thing, no fatigue cost.
Let's talk briefly about glycogen depletion training. This is more of an advanced move.
This is like a black belt. If your liver is a black belt at processing carbohydrates. So if you run in the morning and don't fully replenish muscle glycogen before an afternoon run, not intentionally, it's just because like if you run, like right now I'm doing 2 and 3 hour runs.
Yeah.
I'm not replenishing my glycogen stores fully in the meal after those. Like
No.
I'm trying to replenish to the best of my ability, but the math just doesn't math. So training with low glycogen stores enhances AMPK, which are AMPK activated protein kinase signaling. So AMPK is an energy sensor inside your cells. When it detects that fuel is scarce, it responds by driving mitochondrial biogenesis, increasing fat oxidation capacity and improving metabolic efficiency. Again, this is not something that we're like, and you increase it, you
Right.
purposefully fast.
Right. This isn't a reason to
This is not a
restrict
reason-
your food between
Yes.
runs.
Also not a reason to do doubles. It is just one of the reasons they can be effective is because it is difficult, basically impossible to fully replenish your glycogen. It puts your body in a stress state that can have these physiologically advantageous outcomes, only in the context of adequate recovery and adequate nutrition, like in the macro context.
All right, let's dive into the case study against doubles here. I feel like this is
Can
my
I- okay.
bread and butter.
Just well, I mean, I feel like I've been like, and here are all the caveats, because it's so heavily caveated. And it's, I mean, training only works in the context that makes it work, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to be able to recover. I will say that as a coach, I don't have that many athletes doing
Yeah,
doubles.
I don't program a lot of doubles.
I don't program a lot of doubles. I've not had that many athletes ever that need them to get better, or that like have the resources, time, and bandwidth where they're like, I want to run twice in a day. To be candid, it is something that is like hard to do from a logistical standpoint. Not everyone has goals that make it that advantageous. relative to what the downsides are. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like right now on my whole team, I do not have anyone actively assigned to do doubles.
And I think the thing to recognize is, again, our catchphrase here: the body doesn't know miles, it knows stress.
Yeah.
All stressors, training, work, sleep deprivation, emotional stress, illness, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, it draws on that same recovery pool, those same resources. So the issue is that, if we're adding in a lot of doubles and that's creating more stress because especially in the context of these other things, then does does that running actually become productive?
Yeah.
Will we get the benefits that we discussed earlier? Your autonomic nervous system toggles between sympathetic fight or flight and parasympathetic rest and digest states all the time. And if these doubles do not help you, especially if you're using them for recovery, access a rest and digest state, or add so much stress on that you can no longer access that state, which can happen, then this stuff's not productive. Um, an easy run, even an easy run does activate your sympathetic nervous system.
Yes,
So
this
you
is
have
like,
to be so
I
good
know.
at recovery to
Yeah,
do
I
this
know we say
stuff.
this all the time, but again, like just because a run feels easy, your body, like it still produces physiological stress. That's like the point of it. But
Right.
even if it alleviates your superficial or like the mental and
Your
emotional, like
mental and emotional
I
stress.
feel less stressed about work. That is great. Gravity still exists, and I'm equally offended by this principle, but like cortisol still happens. Like, yes, you can minimize the cortisol by running easier or like at a lower percentage of your aerobic threshold. But again, there is no stress free run from a physiological cost benefit standpoint.
Yeah, and I think again, like maybe the a takeaway here for this little segment is that, adding doubles can easily make things worse. Like if
Yes.
you're already, maybe on that like knife's edge of your training and just able to recover from what you're doing, but maybe your ego wants a little bit more volume, so you start to try doubles. Like, is that really the best thing for you? You need to be paying attention to like how is your sleep? How is your energy stable, mood normal? Are you eating normally? Do you have niggles that won't go away? Like, look at those signs. And if you're already experiencing them, especially in your normal training, please do not add doubles. But if doubles make you feel those things, the doubles are now inappropriate. Too much stress.
There's also, I think, a significant logistical tax for folks because every run will have overhead that isn't just measured in training volume, changing clothes, getting out the door, warming up, cooling down, showering, transitioning back to life. A 20-minute second run is realistically 40 to potentially 60 additional minutes of your day.
Right.
So,
I had an athlete the other day on a call who was like, it's not just a 90-minute run, right? Like, it's really 2 hours.
yeah.
Like, it takes me 15 minutes to get ready and get out the door, and that's running from my house.
Mm.
15 minutes to get home, do a little mobility, pop in the shower, and be back at work. Like, 90 minutes is really a 2-hour run. And if I'm really efficient with my
Yeah.
time
I was
and
going to
I'm
say,
not
that's like,
going anywhere.
it's not the Zoe Rome logistical tax.
No, like that's hard to do.
So, if you're a parent or someone with a demanding job, or you're someone who's already struggling at all to fit in primary runs, that's significant. You don't need doubles, and that's fine. Again,
Yeah.
don't need. That doesn't mean you're missing out. Don't need is great. If you have 30 to 45 extra minutes in your day, I think it's really worth asking yourself, is the second run the best use of that time?
Right. Should I sleep? Should I eat? Should I do mobility, strength,
Meal prep, chilling on the
recovery?
couch with a book, putting your legs up a wall, strength training, or mental decompression, a lot of those things might actually serve your training better.
That's me. That's why I don't do doubles
Yeah.
anymore. I did doubles for like 7 years. And when I switched coaches like 18 months ago, my biggest thing was like, I don't want to do any more doubles because I would rather just spend that 45 to 60 minutes at the end of my workday just doing something that's better for my well-being, like where I actually feel like I'm resting and relaxing instead of just like running more. It
I,
helps. And that was
yeah,
a big benefit for me.
yeah, I like doubles because they are a structure that I have been able to specifically use to help me turn off work at the end of the day. Again, I'm not
Yeah, I
saying
mean, they're a great bookend for
they're
you.
they're a great bookend for me. That's not in and of itself enough reason to do them. And because I've been training for the 75-mile race, I'm doing a lot of 2 and 3 hour runs
Oh
and doing a
God.
set, like, it would be deranged for me to run a second run after doing a 3 hour long run in the morning. And so I have not done doubles very recently because my training is very specific to endurance and therefore trying to keep all the stimulus compressed to better simulate the event I'm participating in.
Yeah. I want to hit on, I think that's a really good point, Zoe.
I
But
miss them. I do love it easy because it's like, oh, 45 minutes. I take Bowie, we jam, I listen to the Unspooled podcast, I come back, I feel great. Oh, I miss doubles. 45 minutes is such a fun amount of
you
time
know
to
what?
run.
It was eventually time for you to taper.
Yes.
Okay. The gray zone trap here is something that I want to touch on briefly, because this is really typical of a lot of athletes, especially our athletes who only have a few years of training history,
Mhm.
who, are accidentally running their runs a little faster than they should be heading into that 7 out of 10 RPE zone. And this is over time, one, not a lot of stress. So it's not great for the adaptation process, but it's just enough stress to make your training sessions the complete opposite of a recovery session. So
Yeah.
if you're accidentally running these doubles too fast, we're taking on all of this extra fatigue that isn't quite enough to like create meaningful adaptation, but is enough to really make you tired over time.
Yeah, so research on training intensity distribution shows that athletes who spend too much time in that gray zone accumulate fatigue without those proportional fitness gains. So the whole entire point of polarized training, hard days hard, easy days easy, is to stay out of this zone on those recovery days. So again, now if your recovery run turns into a moderate effort, that's undermining the entire intention. If you can't run truly easy for 20 minutes, 4 to 5 out of 10 ego checked, pace irrelevant, you're probably not the right candidate for doubles right now, because the skill of running easy is an absolute prerequisite for making doubles effective.
So let me hit on the ego trap before we get into the bottom line here for folks listening. The ego trap is amazing. I love this because it happens to me, it happens to you, it happens to everybody.
What
Um,
do you mean I have normal human psychology? How dare you?
oh God,
Never
I
once.
told everybody. Everybody knows.
Everyone's going to know
You
my
have been
secret that I have
exposed.
a brain.
I mean, let's just be serious about this. Runners want to do doubles because it feels
It
serious.
feels fucking good. I
Yeah,
feel
I
like
feel
I feel like
right.
a serious out like when I get to look my normie friends in the eyes and be like, I ran twice today, it blows their minds and I feel amazing.
Yeah, it's badass to get those two runs in, and your
Hell yeah.
ego loves that,
My
you
ego
know?
loves it. My dog loves it. We're all happy. I'm out of the
Uh,
house. TJ loves it.
love when you're out of the house. But the problem with that is like, are we really looking at whether this is actually right for you?
Productive.
Right.
Not just can you do it, do you need to
Yeah.
do
Do you
this?
need
Is
it?
this actually helpful?
And I think like a good question to ask isn't like, is this a measure of how serious I am? The question is like, is this a thing that you should actually do to help you get meaningfully better?
Or would doubles solve a specific problem in my training right now that other tools wouldn't?
Ooh, love that one. I
You
mean,
need to have a clear value proposition here.
well, it makes me feel better about myself.
I'm insecure, and therefore my training will reflect that.
um,
Love it.
all right. Lastly, energy availability and fueling here, I think is important to touch on, because we did talk about the fact that there is some advantages to training with glycogen depletion. Again,
Unintentional, again, just
yes,
living human life running twice in a day, there will be glycogen depletion.
yes. I mean, adding that second run, it does increase our daily expenditure. So it's really important to recognize if caloric intake doesn't increase to match, you're going to drift into low energy availability. And, that is not a great state for your body to be in if you want to absorb this kind of training.
Or stay a functioning human adult
What?
because
No, it's all about the training. Who cares if we can't function in
the
society?
thing that I think is really important to acknowledge is that low energy availability doesn't require a dramatic deficit, and it doesn't look like what a lot of people assume it does. It
Right.
can develop slowly over weeks as small daily shortfalls accumulate. Just like that daily, like not eating the full piece of toast after your run, the full like didn't finish my lunch at my desk, little things like that stack up. And again, we see evidence in female athletes that if they're not getting sufficient carbohydrates in a like the female physiology is more sensitive to within day energy deficits because we have lower levels of testosterone, which can be a bit protective of within day energy deficits. So it's additionally complicated for the female physiology. Couple that with society's bullshit pressure to be small and to consistently use running and exercise as a means of controlling our bodies rather than being badass motherfuckers who can run 75 miles at a time.
I'm gonna breathe that in and out real quick.
You're like, excuse me, while I do a double.
um, Bottom line, guys, and there's a lot of information here for you all to, start to think about the context in which doubles might be helpful for you. But they're a tool. They're
Mhm.
a tool. They're not a trophy. They're not a validation of whether you're a good enough runner at a certain phase in your running career. When used well, like for example, like when you do them, they're a
Aw,
great.
you do think I'm good at running.
You're all right. They're a great way to build volume. Like they're a great way to aid in recovery, right? And like case point for you is you do it very healthfully. No injuries in a long time, so knock on wood. But used poorly, used for the wrong reasons, like boosting the ego, trying to get more miles when your body's not ready to handle that stress. um, we're just adding stress on stress. And the body doesn't know, that you did, 100 miles on Strava this week. It just knows that you're stressed as fuck and you can't recover and you're not absorbing the training. And over time, if you continue those habits, you're not going to get better. You're going to end up on a plateau at best or injured at worst.
So now that I feel like we've mounted a 50-minute case for why this isn't always a great tool, the reason I did want to talk about it is because the physiology is genuinely useful for athletes of all level. Now that
Yeah,
I've
for
buried
sure.
this value proposition at the end of the episode like an absolute moron, there you have it. Hopefully you, even if you're not doing doubles, you've listened to this point to
Yeah.
understand why I wanted to chat about it.
No, and thank you. I think it's nice to hear again, good reminders for me as a coach is what the advantages are in using this
Yes.
tool and
Yeah.
how it can help athletes.
Tools are neutral.
All right, guys. Well, thank you. And we can't wait to be back next week. As always, microcosm-coaching.com. And we'd love to hear from you. Send your hot or nots, please. Microcosmcoaching@gmail.com. See you soon.